Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford. And the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the APD, the men and women that work in there. Now make no mistake, we need a police force and we're going to have the best. We're going to get the RCMP into Abbotsford till we can solve the problem. It's long overdue. The organized crime in Abbotsford's police force was out of control. Threats. Men and women that used uniform, but let me correct myself. More men than women. I didn't find a one woman, so I'll stand on that stage. The men that used uniform for an elite ring of a mob. Politicians that went in with rich money and went in to become a politician to gain more. Today, I want to give you asked me to elaborate on Pacific Peak Homes. So let me explain. Here, I'll give you Pacific Peak Homes first. That's Davin Roy, Pacific Peak Homes. Who is Davin Roy? You want to know. And why I'm telling you about Pacific. He's Ed Fast, the MP, former MP, the guy that got his ass handed to him, son-in-law. So let me begin. You could see, without me elaborating, now I'll bring it up because, Henry's wife is very slow at putting things together, and so is Ed's. But smarter people like the RCMP are very smart. You could see why Pierre Polly had distanced himself from Ed Fast. He knew it. And you could see why Henry Braun, George Perry, John Van Doggen all went behind Mike de Jong as the four leaders to get Mike in as a Liberal over Suk Mengel. The discrimination in Abbotsford on the South Asians is out of control by the Mennonite community. That has to be stopped, and it's got to be called out. And not only that, it's got to be called out, and it's out of control in the Abbotsford police. When Henry Braun targeted Councillor Mogel and said to the Abbotsford Task Force, Mike Sear, I can't have that shitbox win, get there, and he blocked him, I'm glad he's having you. I took that to the RCMP because I learned it from Henry's son and it was video film. So what are I doing here today? I want to show Abbotsford residents about an elite ring. Not fentanyl and not the story the Abbotsford police came. Gangs. Oh, last night the chief and his little shit squad went out. We got 12 people drinking and driving. And tomorrow we're working with the Langley RCMP. We're going to see if they're still befriending us. Come on in here. We're going to bring our unions together. We got to all work together now and save the company. The problem is, how long have the RCMP have been played by the Abbotsford police to keep this problem off of it? Is it gone far, in my opinion, I'll let you decide, is it gone far enough that the Abbotsford police officers that died on the street and they were fake to the community that they died in the line of duty of what was going on behind the scenes? So let me paint you a picture and you decide, and I tell you where I fit in with this picture, and I tell you why when I see an officer die on the street, I'm going to be the first one to call it out, because I know the chief and his friends and his politicians here in Abbotsford are going to beg the RCMP, please, please, please. So let me play you a scene. When Henry Braun took the mayor's seat, he went in there because the business community and the Mennonites needed somebody to do their dirty jobs and get their jobs elaborated, rushed through. He couldn't get it through Bruce Banman, Darren Brown showed me, George Perry and other people because they worried about insider trading. Henry came in and here I am, boys. I'm going to take my money my daddy gave me, my family, and here I am. He put his son in front of him as mayor, as economic development officer, rushing and helping jobs. He lathered and bought jobs, and you could see him. It was the only time in his whole business community of his whole life that he was partnering up with everybody. I got to step off tonight. I own shares with this guy. I own shares with that guy. I own shares with this guy. So when he left the mayor's seat, all these developers now would have their jobs being proposed under Ross Siemens, and Henry knew that he could maybe do another term, but he got shit kicked out of there and he got caught. So let me explain and take you back about Davin Roy, Pacific Peak Homes. When Ed Fast stood by while Abbotsford residents had their homes go down the mountain and knew that the contractor under the mayor's seat is responsible to take the hit. Henry didn't allow that to happen because the contractor would have said, listen, you shitbox, you lobbied that job next to your jobs with your bloody son so you could stand and bring the value of your land up. You lobbied the bus to be moved off of Riverside to free that up and get your city people to rush it through from A2 to I2 and make millions of dollars off them tilt-out. You got Pam to rush it under a proposal, which you're not allowed. You didn't even have proper hearings. You had council in your house, and you rammed it through. You make me go good for them jobs and them houses, I'm going to call you in the ground. So Henry had to do what he did when he was in the corner. He had to block Abbotsford community. He had to threaten Abbotsford residents, and he used the council that he controlled to say, you're not going to go out there, you're not sending city investigators or nothing, and we're going to shit kick them homeowners. When Abbotsford residents were being threatened, they went to the RCMP. The RCMP knew, now you need to go to one place, EDFAST. The MP, the former MP, EDFAST. And you could see Pierre Poilievre distance himself. I want you to look at the top of that mountain. See it being logged like a chicken's backside being plucked? That is Pacific Peak Homes and Ron Funka Diverse tagged up. Now let me show you what blackjacking is, how it works. Henry needed Ed Fast as the MP not to land in Ottawa and say, listen, we have a problem. We have a police chief that covered Henry's attempted murder in broad daylight. We had the police chief order his top investigators not to do criminal reports or take eyewitnesses, the task force, which is now, you got a problem in our major police force, which a lot of them got to be clean. And we saw lots of problems, 9 and everything. It's how much these political politicians that needed that police force could do damage control to save them, and you could see them. I knew with the RCMP's help and premiers and many dignitaries, we owe Abbotsford a lot of thanks, especially the RCMP, that we could show that Henry was using them boys. We saw him smash my camera, we saw him run me, we knew it all. We knew it from Darren Braun, so we could embrace what was coming. It wasn't fentanyl that was on our streets and gangs and all this. It was a deflecting that if we blamed the gangs and fentanyl and this, we get the 71 million. Henry was building an army. And then we could deflect that there's criminal activity, we'll build a bigger police station because he was setting up like Adolf Hitler, the SS. And then, while he was deflecting, he could steal these jobs. So when you went into the MP, like the RCMP said, go to Ed Fast on what took place. He knew, the RCMP knew that it's Ed's job to land in Ottawa and say, Mr. Speaker, the Mayor of Abbotsford, Mr. Speaker, will not Justin Trudeau or the Liberals stand up, the Mayor of Abbotsford, has his son in front of him as an economic development officer, working all his projects and his partner's projects, and he's threatening Abbotsford residents with the Abbotsford Police. Mr. Speaker, the Mayor of Abbotsford got in his car in broad daylight with a 911 call, proceeded to end Abbotsford residents, Mr. Pelican's life, and used the Abbotsford Police Chief and its top police officers to cover it and hold down criminal reports. This is Ed Fast. Mr. Speaker, not only that, the Mayor had looked at the official community plan and he had council, the majority of them, except for Bruce Bamman and Mo Gill, because Mo said there was smoke, in his house just off to the right of me on Downs, collaborating on all the decisions we need. Dave Lowens. Mr. Speaker, it's proven, not with a shadow of doubt, thanks to the RCMP, the man of mission. When Mr. Pelican ran for mayor, Abbotsford newspaper that has an obligation to its voters and to everybody refused to run Mr. Pelican because Henry Brown said, listen, Vicky Hopes and Ken and your little shit old newspaper, you do that, I'll pull the city advertising that I brought you on board, I'll pull all the stories, I'll pull Ross's gas stations ads, I'll pull handlers, I'll pull everything. You broke. It was their job. We knew that right away from the RCMP, so I knew Vicky Hopes was, look at my badge, Chief, look at me, I'm Vicky Hopes, Chief, I want to dance, Chief, look at me. So we knew. So we knew not to go after Vicky Hopes. Stay focused on Henry and who was with Henry, the politicians. Then he should have said, Mr. Speaker, under the Elections Acts, everybody has a right to run in a democracy, and Dave Sidhu, who Henry needed to play for the East Indian votes, the South Asian votes, to help Ross, blocked Mr. Pelican with Andy Sidhu at the Chancellor at UFE and threatened. And UFE had apologized, and now you can see Andy Sidhu was rewarded. He got a new house, and the developer was going to buy on Valley Road. Ed wasn't doing that. The RCMP knew he should have did this. And then they should have said, Mr. Speaker, what was so outrageous, Dave Lowens went on to Blue Ridge, 25 feet in, that's the distance from here, 25 feet in that ditch on private property, took Mr. Pelican signs down because Henry needed a certain group on that. Oh no, Mr. Speaker, listen to Ed fast here. Not only that, the Chamber of Commerce, who endorsed Ross Siemens months in advance with the Royal Bank over all the other mayors, which was unfair because it's loading in behind elections rules. There it is, Darren Braun gave it to us. And the bank, RBC Bank, said Ross has got it over all the mayors because his name flashed, it's illegal. And the developer running him, Ron Funk, had his sign. Mr. Speaker, Greg Toes, the Chamber of Commerce, refused to put Mr. Pelican on the stage because it would wreck Ross Siemens and Henry and the establishment. Ron Funk and Diverse and Peak Holmes needed him. They needed their boy because we do not want forensic audits. So we asked Greg Toes to bribe Mr. Pelican for his signs. His election will help him in 4 years. And Greg Toes got told to stick it up his backside. And Mr. Pelican said, you're in for a wake-up that you never had. No one knew. No one knew that I went to the RCMP. No one. Not even the Abbotsford police. Hey, look at us. We run the town and let's retell you. Look at us. A bunch of gangs. I cannot emphasize how much, when I talk about the Abbotsford police, how much organized crime goes through my mind that they're involved in every day on a day-to-day basis. We don't need to hear them. They're going under investigations. We know what they've done. That is supposed to be before our city council, and they weren't doing it. Henry was blocked. So if you look to the top of that mountain, that is the Eagle Mountain. On the top of Eagle Mountain is Pacific Peak Homes. Pacific Peak Homes is Ed's son-in-law. He's Ed's son-in-law, Davin Roy. Henry got Davin Roy to join Ron Funk, a Diverse, and merge. Ed Fast was aware that Henry went down onto the old newspaper site and got Rob Funk to purchase it, and then broke all the codes of knocking it down and refused to put Magna because she was under his command. And then used city officials late at night to cut the tree down, this vulnerable tree, remember that tree of hope, what Bruce Banman was scandaled, to get the homeless out of there. And then on taxpayers' dollars, hauled all them rocks with the Abbotsford police sitting there. I'm watching for you, Henry, get some more rocks. To help the developer, Ron Funk. Henry Brown had to do this, right, Ed Fast? Let me explain. He said, Ed, you call me out on that attempted murder. You call me out in Ottawa that I blocked. You call me out that I used the Abbotsford police. You mentioned my bloody son was in front of me and working in the city and ramming jobs through with Ross Siemens for all my partners that I own land in. You mention any of this. You know what I'm going to do, Ed? Let me tell you what I am going to do, Ed. I'm going to outline to Vicky Hopes to scandal you and your punk son-in-law, Davin Roy, in Pacific Peak Homes. This is why Ed Fast covered up for Ron Funk. He believed he would protect his daughter and his son-in-law. And Henry was blackjacking him. That's no way, Ed. Sometimes you got to stand up and let it hit, and you got to tell your son-in-law, you know what? I screwed up. I'm going to stand to get whacked all over the face. You're involved in insider trading, illegal sites. Henry had counsel run it. So let me tell you this, Davin Roy, you can hear it from Mr. Pelican. I took to the world stage so the RCMP could see it because Henry was using the private police to hold all investigations of criminal acts. Even this will shock you. When Henry lobbied Ron Funk, a Diverse, to buy the Vaquero Ranch over everybody else and shut down the Augustin billionaire, it was this shithole man went in to invest all his daddy's money with his brother, Davin Roy, his brother, Erwin Braun, on the police board. Mark Warkentine and everybody, he had a little ring. His own son was doing the dirty work and got tired of not being rewarded, and you were benefiting in the hundreds of trillions, Davin. You and Ronnie Funk, jobs, who cares about this? When Darren Brown showed me that how Henry blamed and was moving the Cooper farm over to 3,000 people to get it for Polygon, he said, my dad will screw everybody over. And Vicky Hopes is going to write an article. 3,000 people showed up, and if you watch video, there was very few people. Henry took it off the dockets, put it back on the dockets so people wouldn't show up, and then blamed Peter Sparanesian. He said, did you see my dad? And Ed won't do nothing. My dad's got Ed down there on his hands. When I told that to Pierre Poilievre, he went, oh. Pierre was choking. He was worried in the middle of an election, trying to take Trudeau out, and now this. Pierre couldn't focus on his election, and Carney came in and beat him, hammered him down, and everybody was dumbfounded because Pierre Poilievre was trying to clean the back doors from behind. He was blocking Mike, he was doing this, and he was wondering how far Brad Viss was involved, and Mark Strahl, and and he was trying to hold it from the Liberals. And I said to Pierre, it's going to come right up your driveway. You can't fight two and try to become the Prime Minister. You're weak, you're vulnerable, you're not out there, you're not getting your message because you hear what's going on in Abbotsford with the M&Ms, the Mennonite mob. You should have just called it out, and he didn't. Pacific Peak Homes and Ron Funk stood to gain, and these were families of families of families. When Henry knew his son told, he had to get the Abbotsford police to threaten. He had to take all precautions. With the help of the Mission RCMP, and Abbotsford owns them a tremendous thanks, we can never thank them man enough for what they did. They knew right away. All this was so obvious. They knew that the whole of Abbotsford police were involved somehow at the top. Because this shit you don't look away from, especially a guy laying dead on laying on the street. It puts the questions in there, ladies and gentlemen. These officers that are shot in the line of duty, or is it developers that Henry squashed? So let me paint you this picture. The Augustine billionaire worked for years and 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 lobbied his project up in Augustine to make an elite thing. Henry wanted it in his back pocket and he wouldn't give it to him, so Henry shut him down. And he laughed and giggled, and Darren Braun showed me, see, Abbotsford councillor outvoted him, the ones that were in his house. The only one that was honest in there was Les Barkman. And then Henry lobbied, well, you can't do much to that mountain. You know that mountain? Henry knows about mountains. That's the one behind Lou's Bar and Grill that knocked all them homes off. But that mountain is unveiled. As soon as he blocked the Augustine billionaire, you know what he did, ladies and gentlemen? He went and bought it with his friends. Davin Roy of Peak Homes and Diverse, right, Henry? And then he told Ron Funk to buy the Vaquero Ranch. And Ron Funk started arguing and marketing, coming soon, coming soon. We don't need the Abbotsford residents to vote on it. We don't need anybody. We got councillors called Abbotsford First, Dave Lowens, Kelly Shahal, Patricia Dreesen, Simon Gibson. Simon's so worried. Last time I heard Simon, I'm going to say I haven't seen him for a long time, when he said, I think the RCMP CSIS got everybody's phone tapped. I think the day I took on YouTube, the RCMP did it right away because it's organized crime, especially when you do this far. And they know that when the Abbotsford police covered Henry's hit and run with all them investigators, money was paying elite officers off. That's a guarantee. And once you got this, they're probably in all the gangs and drugs taking it up to downs. Your imagination can run wild on you. We can't let that. That's why we need the RCMP in Abbotsford to take it over, and we got to get rid of these guys. These guys got to go. So then he argued to get that up there. And that is how Henry was blackjacking Ed Fast. When I told these stories to Pierre Poilievre, I said, no, Pierre, it's no mistake. Darren Braun sat down before he knew I was Mr. Pelican and outlined how your MP was under Henry's thumb. And he wouldn't stand up on Henry's attempted murder, the election, or nothing. And he wouldn't come out to them houses, because if he came out, Henry had blackjacked him. He had manipulated Henry and Ed in the corner that he could own him. Mike DeYoung the same way. And he manipulated. And then they convinced each other, we need Ross for all this, because we have counsel. Right, Ross? Ross stayed at his gas station, Darren Braun showed me. Dave Sadu was told to work his ass off. Well, we use you, Dave. We'll use you and your dad. And old Ross won't do nothing, and we'll help Ross. You could see it. Ross doesn't stand his own. You know who's helping him, right, Henry? So I want to make something clear to all Abbotsford residents, especially to politicians, and to the great man of the RCMP. This wasn't just Mr. Pelican. It took a great group to come together and do this. And we owe the first people to say thanks to is the Mission RCMP men and women. They knew to send us to Ed's office and get that MP involved. And when they saw Ed deflecting and doing it, they were just a matter of time how Henry was controlling Ed, that MP, to silence his mouth on them police officers' threat. Them uniforms were being used, like the uniform of the city to cut the tree down so Ron Funk could benefit. Magna, and I made it clear what Gabriel did thanks to the RCMP. Henry told Gabriel I need all Mr. Pelican sign stuff. That's why I wasn't angered, because I made sure that I told the RCMP I'm going to run as mayor, and we're going to watch these shit kickers not knowing that it's a decoy, and we're going to watch him do Henry's dirty work because millions of dollars. Right, Henry? So, ladies and gentlemen of the Fraser Valley, here, do you not believe that the federal government should now open with the RCMP all diverse is books, and who owns the diverse and everything else? It's insider trading, it's threats. And if Henry squashed these billionaires and these people that did it, it's only a matter of time. It was luck that Darren Braun told his dad was operating the police to do the threats. I believe, in my statement today, in my opinion, that a lot of people do not know that Henry and Ed and these people were the back players, so when the cops come up and threaten you, they think that it's the cops doing it, and they go, oh, let's go fix that cop. What's he doing? These guys were running an elite ring. The Abbotsford men and women that worked in the top of the police believed that their uniform could shield them. That 911 call was clear. That election is clear. That shit with Ed's son-in-law is clear. That shit with Ron Funk is clear. That shit that Mike Cerf fled here and brought Keelan Olin off is clear. The officer smashing my phone is clear. It's all clear. It's black and white. Why it's so clear is because I went to the best men and women that can help Abbotsford and help on the criminals in the elite criminal ring, the RCMP. Once they put her on the rail, she was open. And then I sat there and I had first-hand information from Henry's son, the economic development officer, Darren Braun. The question is now, Ed Fast, how much money do you stand and your empires involved with Pacific Peak Homes? This is insider trading. Henry controlled the city councilors, Dave Lowensing them, and that is why they needed Ross Seals. The RCMP said, as they slowly work themselves in the corner and they lose control of asking the Abbotsford police because they're being flashed on social media, Vicky Hope starts to shit her drawers, Rick Rakes flees to Victoria, the verse goes and hides in the corner, Dave Sidhu doesn't come out, Simon Gibson, they all start to collapse. It comes to the top very quickly. And the RCMP are masters in that. They said Ed's involved massively in this because when you residents sat in his office, he asked people to steal legal documents from their lawyer to see if the lawyer, through documents and searching companies, would already tie Ed Fast to diverse Devon Roy and tie Pacific Peak Homes. So Ed asked a dirty work, and that the RCMP knew was out of the Ed scope of his work, and Ed should have been calling a press conference with all that. Ed Fast, I suggest, Ross Siemens and Dave Sidhu are taking parachute lessons down at the little airport here. I think when they're flying over into Mexico, they're going to jump and crash their plane and disappear. That's why they're taking them parachute things. I suggest, Ed, you and Henry start doing the same. Henry Braun. And so, ladies and gentlemen, to all politicians, to mayors and everybody listening, we owe the Mission RCMP a tremendous thanks. Henry Braun is the mastermind and the ringleader. You could see the way they all protect Henry in all his ignorance he did. When he went on stage and begged for that dike money, when he did this with the 4 leaders to get Mike DeYoung in, they knew he was desperate to cover all this up. This is in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, bigger than the criminal ring of fentanyl, gangs, or anything. And we can't look away from it. It was threats on innocent people, people that are not involved in gangs, people that are law-abiding citizens, go about their things to their little parks with their kids, come home to their nice houses that they struggle, being threatened and targeted by assholes. And the men and women that signed up undercover in the Abbotsford police allowed this, engaged in it, and carried it out, and did not have a professional distance from their leader, Henry Braun. They have to, ladies and gentlemen. They have to be gone. These men that work in the Abbotsford Police are very, very smart and conniving and scams. You could see them throwing out stuff on social media. We got drinking and drivers. We're working with the RCMP. We're getting investments. We're getting this. They stole the 71 million. Darren Braun made that clear. You saw what Archway did, and the next day I'm going to show you a video that'll open your eyes. And you saw this all. These men are disgusting, and that's why they're called pigs. Disgusting pigs. Disgusting pigs. They have nothing to do with law enforcement. When I went to the RCMP mission, they got that 911 tape fast. They got Brenda Falk fast. They put it together fast. They linked it together fast. They sent us in Ed's office fast. They connected us to Terry Beach fast. They knew Henry, and Mike, and all of them were in together, and they knew it was for these lands and these lifts, and they knew it all. They connected it so fast, so quick. That's what law enforcement does. And they knew it was about that money and that greed. But this man took the law in his own hands, left the city of Abbotsford in his Lexus car, gunned it, then paid police officers off to cover it up so he could finish the term to put this all in place for Ross Siemens, the official community plan, and all his friends to benefit. I'm calling on the BC Conservatives, the federal Conservatives, and all politicians and mayors across this great country we live to help Abbotsford and bring and lobby that the RCMP have to come in and have to go after Ron Funke diverse and seize it, and have to open their books and go after it all, insider trading and everything. Abbotsford residents didn't have a choice, from the Cooper's Farm to everything. It was an elite ring and a mob. But let me make it clear to all politicians, to everybody listening, to the top of the RCMP, to everybody, and even to this wannabe Chief Watts that can't come out. It's so bad for him and his guys. I was told yesterday that they get courtesy drinks at Tim Hortons. The South Asians ain't giving it to them, and rightfully so, after they saw what happened to Mogale. And Henry stood there and said, why you want to help my neighbor when he damaged the homes and was threatening? Why you want to help that dumb cow? Me and him should work together because we were white. The South Asians now in these restaurants and these fast food shops are dishing them Abbotsford police. They're white-collar crime, and they have to be treated like that. This is no law enforcement. But Pacific Peak Homes shows you why Ed Fast did what he did. And that is why Pierre Poilievre blocked him. That is why they didn't have a lavish party for Ed Fast and say thanks for all your years. That is why Brad Viss and him crawled on stage the other night with Ross Siemens. And again, you know who was missing there? Suk Mangill. And that's got to be called out. Suk Mangill is the official Conservative, and all Conservatives got to stand up and say what Ross Siemens did and what Ed Fast and Brad Viss did has to be called out. It's discrimination, and it's wrong against the South Asians, and we got to stand up. And we'll make this community better. The Ron Funke diverse. I'm going all the way, Mr. Funk, and that's what needs to be done, and we need to bring the law in. You choose the wrong partner, Henry Braun. I'm live, Davin Roy, Abbotsford, British Columbia.